With the war between Israel and Hamas now in its fourth week, Israel expanding its ground operations in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warning that the war in Gaza will be long and difficult.
And joining us now from Israel is ABC's chief foreign correspondent in Pannell. Always good to see you. Sorry about these circumstances here. Let's start with the incident in Russia there, where an angry mob stormed an airport targeting a plane carrying passengers from Tel Aviv. What do we know about this incident?
Yeah, I mean, really terrible scenes seen in videos circulating online. There were hundreds of people waiting for this flight that had come directly from Tel Aviv here in Israel and landed in Dagestan in southern Russia. And when they got there, this mob developed. You can see signs of all the military activity around me. Hopefully you can still hear me. They were there basically looking for for Israeli residents, for Jews coming off that flight. This mob was chanting anti-Semitic slogans. They were able to break into the airport, break onto the runway, and were even trying to get on the plane. The pilot having to lock these terrified passengers inside the plane. It took a long time for the security forces to take control of the area and make the passengers safe. A number of people arrested. At least one policeman, we understand, was killed. But terrible scenes, and also slight reflections of some of the anti-Semitism we've seen brewing in other parts of the world.
There have been weeks of airstrikes. Israel is now intensifying its ground operations there in Gaza. What's the latest in this new phase?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, Israel isn't calling this an incursion, and if you look at the dictionary definition of incursion, it's when you cross into sort of enemy territory or another person's territory with a military force. So that's kind of really what's going on there. They're saying an expanded ground operation. They crossed over on Friday night, and today they're basically moving closer towards Gaza City in the north. And we've been seeing tanks, hearing artillery fire. You can see all the military trucks here. We're not far from the Gaza border. A lot of military activity in the area. You can hear the constant sound of booms. You see fighter jets in the air. We've also heard gunfire as militants from Hamas and others try and resist the Israeli advance, but it looks fairly unstoppable. And of course, in the midst of this, you've got 2 million civilians who are trapped inside Gaza with no means of escape.
So do we know just how long Israel's operations could last when it comes to rooting out Hamas?
Yeah, I mean, it's set itself a very large objective to basically destroy Hamas, dismantle it, not just its military leadership, but also its political leadership. It kind of sounds almost like an open-ended commitment, because they know after the first phase of the operation inside Gaza, they're going to have this mopping up operation because there's still going to be pockets of resistance. And they say they're going to carry on doing that. And then the last phase is the day after. They say, well, look, it won't be us and it won't be Hamas in charge there. But it seems a very difficult undertaking. We've seen the difficulty for US troops in Iraq, in places like Fallujah and Ramadi, and also Iraqi troops in Mosul, trying to unseat an insurgency in an urban environment. It knows its own turf much better than the force that's moving in does. And the trouble with trying to defeat Hamas, it's not just a physical movement, it's an ideology. Even Israeli leaders will confess that that is the case. So you can destroy, you can kill, you can dismantle as much as you like, but I think it's going to be very difficult to get to that point where you say, okay, job done, we can now leave. And that's a problem. And I think that's why you're hearing some of those concerns from the United States about the military plan.
You're talking about all of the stuff that's going on there, but we also have to talk about these hostages that are being held by Hamas in Gaza. Any word on what's being done to free those people?
Yeah, in fact, Hamas have just released a video of 3 older women hostages. They're making appeals to the Israeli government. And we know 4 of the hostages have been released. There's now something around 230 held there. Some are as young as 6, 9 months old. Some are very elderly. There's one elderly gentleman whose family we've been speaking to. He's 85 years old. And this guy was a total hero. He lived on one of those kibbutzim, these kind of communal rural communities down near the border. And when the militants came in that day, they tried to break into the shelter, and they couldn't the first time. And so he knew that they were going to come back. So to save his 71-year-old wife, he went out and he gave himself up to the militants, hoping that they wouldn't then go and try and search the property more thoroughly, and that's indeed what happened. But yeah, they're held in there. The conditions are clearly difficult. They've now got the bombing, the ground operation underway. Countries like Qatar, Israel, Egypt, and the United States are all involved in negotiations. But what Hamas wants is got hundreds of prisoners being held here in Israel, and it wants to see a lot of those released, and it's using them for political purposes. I mean, we can't even begin to imagine the terror of what they had to endure on October 7th and what they're undergoing right now, just a mile or two from here.
Yeah, terrifying details coming out of this conflict. ABC Chief Foreign Correspondent in Pannell, thank you very much, and good to see you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.